We found him. Hey, Coach Ella.
Hey,
I
how you
found
doing?
you.
Ah, I'm
Hello.
I'm, I'm good. Good, just
How you
tired.
doing?
Yeah.
You good? That's right. That's right. That's what we want to hear. You know, I've just been spending a few minutes getting people caught up to
Uh-huh.
date with my project, Trauma to Triumph, letting them know how they can be a part of this amazing project. And I started this, Keith, about a year ago, where we share stories of real life trauma. And we have been healing so many people who hear these stories that have
Hmm.
gone through things similar. We've gotten so much, I've gotten so much mail, so much, just so much feedback about this platform and about how we're changing the lives of people who may not have the courage to talk about their real life trauma. And so let me say first to you, thank you for saying yes and agreeing to come on this platform tonight. And we're going to talk about your journey in a few minutes. But I do like to start with prayer, if that's okay with you. All right. Right. So you all, we're going to start with prayer, and then we're going to get into tonight's Trauma to Triumph with Keith Holmes. Father God, I ask that you cover both Keith and I. Make sure that whatever we say tonight touches at least one person, because God, this is something that we are doing in your name so that we can heal millions of people through the sharing of our life stories. And we want to encourage people that there is life on the other side of trauma. And that's why we are doing Trauma to Triumph. So I ask that you help us do or say a thing tonight to heal at least one person. These and all other blessings I ask in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. So, Keith, I introduced you earlier. I'm going to let you introduce yourself the way you want to. World championship boxer, an amazing guy. Your journey, your book has been like so inspiring. And so I don't want to give it all away. I would like for you to introduce yourself, tell them who you are. And I'd love to just take a trip down memory lane and let's talk about your journey, because I know that based on your book and some of the things that we've talked about on Spotlight Over the City, your journey has not been always been easy. And you have gone through different periods of time of life trauma. But look at you now. And I'd love for you to tell a little bit about who you are now and then take us on your journey.
I'm Keith Holmes, former two-time middleweight champion of the world. Grew up in Washington, D.C., in Northeast and Southeast. My mother lived in Southeast when I was a kid, and my grandmother lived in Northeast, Paradise Manor, and my mother was over Sheridan Terrace. And so when I was young, I was back and forth. Once I learned how to catch the bus, my mom told me how to catch the bus, I was back and forth because both places were fun, but my grandmother, she seemed to have had things that my mom didn't have, like food, So it was a lot of, that was one of the biggest reasons why I was going to my grandmother's house a lot. I mean, plus she was, grandmothers kind of like be lenient on the kids more than the parents. Yeah, exactly.
A little bit more. About how old were you when you started
I
catching the
was
bus like
probably
that?
about 7. Yeah, I was 7. I was,
Wow,
because
young.
I remember I started boxing when I was 6. So my mom, we used to get on a bus a lot in Southeast, and I used to just remember all of the buses and where it would take me, how it would get off. And I just asked her, can I do it? Can I do it? And I had to have been around 7 or 8 years old, and she let me do it. And then I called her when I got to my grandmother's house, and I made it. And once I did that, she allowed me to do it a lot. I always had to sit behind the bus driver, though, so
Okay.
yeah. So, and
Right behind the bus
and
driver.
made sure,
Okay.
I got
Okay.
off the right stop and all that stuff. So, but those were the days that when things weren't, when you're a kid, you really don't know what you're going through until you get older and then you start to see it. I knew I was, at times we didn't have a lot of food in the house, and sometimes we didn't have anything. my grandmother would get mad at my mom. So she would come over there and sometimes kidnap us, and or she would bring food. And you don't know that you're going through something. And then when you get older and it's still happening, you try to do things to offset that hunger, you know. So as a young boy, I probably was in everybody's house when they was not home. I started I started to burglarize, I started breaking cars, I started to hustle at the Safeway. And all my friends over Southeast, they didn't, their house might have been a little better than mine, but they weren't too much better. You know, they were hungry too. And at that time, the oodles and noodles came out. And a lot of times that was dinner. Yeah. So,
yes.
and then if you could put 2 packs in a bowl, then you was on point. You know what I mean? Because 1 pack one would do it. Yeah. So my mom, she was very, very, she was like the youngest today. I wouldn't say wow, but she wore her clothes, you know, and it wasn't pleasing to me because I was a kid. It was like, but she was, to other people, she looked good, she was sexy or whatever. And so it was a lot I was going through. My brother, he really didn't pay a lot of attention. My older brother, he didn't pay a lot of attention to that. Dion, and everybody knew him for playing instruments. But I didn't have a talent at that. My talent was stealing, you know. So I was trying to eat, and he was making money by playing drums. So
okay, so wait a minute. Was there a dad in the house?
No, I never knew. I never knew my dad, and my father, whom my brother's father, I started calling him Dad. You know, so, and you know, to this day,
all right.
I'm not really concerned anymore, but I don't really know who my father is. So.
And so you've unattached yourself from it altogether.
So I just try my best to be a good father myself. So,
right.
So, you know.
Okay. All right. So you didn't have a talent. Your brother was
I don't know.
musically talented.
I tried to play with his band, but he was one of the founders of Junkyard, the Junkyard band that's out now. You know, and then we grew up with those guys. But he's a great drummer, and he tried to bring me in. He tried to bring me into the band, but I just wasn't into that. You know, so you were ripping and running the streets. I guess that's what I was doing as a kid. I ended up on the other side of Southeast, and I was down by the big chair. I got up in the big chair, got stuck in the big chair. They had to get a 5 truck to get me out of the big chair. I just was all over the place. But my mom taught me to respect my elders, so I was really respectful. So I was just really trying to eat for real, having fun and trying to eat. Exactly. So as time went on, I started staying over my grandmother's house the most because I was boxing over there. I started when I was 6, so I was boxing in my grandmother's area, Northeast Kenilworth, and I grew up. Her neighborhood was Paradise, and Mayfair surrounding. And so I was going to Kenilworth to train, and I really liked it over there. So I started staying over there more. I kind of like moved out without moving out, and I was over my grandmother a lot. So my mom would get mad at me because I started catching the bus by myself without permission, and she was like, "How you get over there?" Yeah.
Without her permission.
As things got thicker later on, I started to see something, and I was young. I saw it when I was young. I started to see, like, my mom when she was struggling, and my grandmother when I went over her house, she was struggling. But my grandmother worked Georgetown University, but she never had no money. She didn't hang in the streets or none of that. But she always was, would have her last $20. She would get her last pass so she can get on the bus and she'd subway and stuff like that. So I was seeing the same type of lifestyle on both sides, and that was the lack of having something. the lack of food
Right.
and all that stuff on both sides. So I didn't see anything wrong with stealing at that time. Yeah, at that time, I just
At
thought it
that
was,
time.
and then I kind of like, I'm sorry for this, but I kind of like brought a lot of people with me on that. And then right now today they tease me and say I'm the reason they the way they are now. So, I say, so yeah,
You right, you
I
did
don't
that
think
to
so,
them.
but we all ate and they wasn't complaining then. So
So did you not have like an older person in your life to say, Keith, that's
all of
not
the
right?
older people that was in my life were my uncles and people in the neighborhood. They was just as wrong as I was. Yeah.
Oh,
So you really don't
okay.
see,
So
like, if you don't have a father in the house and he's not really, if you have one in the house and he's a crook, you're going to be a crook. I don't care what nobody say. Everybody that had a father in their house and he sold his little reefer back then, they ended up doing it later. So it wasn't a good role
mm-hmm.
model situation. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I love my uncles. But they were all street runners. They were all like semi gangsters or whatever.
Okay.
So they
Mm-hmm.
when I was getting in trouble, they would get mad at me. But how could they get mad at me when they was in Lawton and all that stuff, right? So,
Right. Right. So
yeah,
you were
I
product of your
started to
environment
grow
at that
into it
time.
really heavy. And so me being over my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother's house all the time, I would go back to my mom's house and I would spend probably a week there. And I got kicked out of elementary, two of them over Southeast, just for fighting. You know what I mean? I was fighting, but I wasn't always the reason why, the fight started. But never, nobody in this world
Okay.
would tell me where I've ever backed down from a fight. I don't care how big you were, I fought. And I didn't. Yeah, never
You
back
never back
down, never.
down.
When I think I was too stupid to be scared, so I was never scared of nobody, and even don't care how big they were. So as time went on, I started staying with my grandmother more and more and more. So tragedy came, like, and I wish I would have
Mm-hmm.
not stayed so long at my grandmother's house. Uh, when I turned 15, this was I had been through the amateur career, my boxing. I was doing a lot of stuff. So I blew my grandmother's house a lot because I was boxing on that side. And so when I got to 15,
Okay.
I was doing a whole lot. And then one day I came in the house and my grandmother said, the mom just left here and she really wanted to see you. And I said, I didn't know she was coming over here. So I called her, and my grandma said she just left. So I said, no, let me call her and see if she's home yet. So she got home real fast. And, some words that she said to me on the phone that I really don't want to say right now. But it kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
even as a kid, it kind of like hurt me. And to the point where I feel
Right.
sorry. Feel sorry that I wasn't there when she came over. So I told her I would be over there tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
when tomorrow came, before I went to my mother's house, I wanted to, I wash my shoes, and you're going back to your old neighborhood. You want to look like you left for a reason, so you got to look clean. So I had to clean my tennis shoes and all that stuff.
Right.
And then I went outside and I was
Right.
gambling.
Right.
I was gambling. However much money I made, if it was like a few $100s, I was growing because I ain't never had that kind of money when we was young and living in Southeast. So after I
Right.
got finished gambling, I think it was about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I said I was going to go towards my mom's house about 2. So I went in the house and I had my shoes hanging on the fan. That's when we had a fan. That was the dryer. That was drying my shoes, my tennis shoes with the clothespins on the hangers and my shoestrings
Mm-hmm.
on there. So I took my clothes, my shoes off the hangers, and I just sat on the end of the bed and was lacing my shoes up when the phone rang. And so, we had the house phone at that time. This was the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Back
was
then. Yep.
84.
Lines.
And
Mm-hmm.
the phone call, you never think you would get this kind of phone call. And I'm a kid. I'm 15 years young at that time. Yeah.
Right.
And
15.
so it was one of my good friends from Southeast. And he just asked me, where was I? I was like, man, I'm home. I mean, I'm on my grandma's. I'm ready to come over there. He said, something happened to your mom. And I said, what you mean? And he explained to me what happened to her. And he was, and I was stuck. And I just was wondering where my brother was, because he always stayed home with her. Because he could play his drums and all that stuff. So my mom had got hurt really bad. And I didn't think it was that bad. But that was something that I had to go through at the age of 15. And she transitioned that day. The day I was on my way to her house, and all the way up to the day and the time that I was writing the book, I couldn't really write it because it was deep. And remember, I told you the day before she had said something to me, and what she said to me, it kind of like it stick with me all the way up to the day. So, and then from that point on, after I lost my mom and I was really took with my grandmother, I never wanted that to happen again. So from that point on, I said I would never take money from my family again. I didn't even want them to feed me no more. Let my grandmother know if I was hungry, I would never tell her. I said I ate. I already ate. Yeah. And so, it came to a time where, like, when my birthday came, I would give them money. I would slide them money. My uncles and all, because my uncle lived there too. And this was a 2-bedroom apartment, duplex paradise. So, we almost had the whole family in that one time. Yeah. And so after that, for my past came back to haunt me, and I got locked up. And I was sitting in juvenile detention center. They gave me a 2-year bit. I was in for at least a year. And when I came home, it was just different. It was different. I came out to the PCP era. Yeah. So that was Love Boat. And I'm looking at my friends like, where these gold chains coming from and all? I'm coming out thinking we going to start breaking this stuff again. That was out. That was out the window. That was happening over. And so, through all of this that I'm talking about, I was still going to the gym, training, fighting. That's why I had so many amateur fights. I had almost 80-some amateur fights. And I held on to boxing. And it just seemed like if I wouldn't have held on to boxing, held on to God, where would I be today? And I love my journey, but because it taught me something, it made me resilient, and a lot of fights that I had, it caused me. I think sometimes being thorough is stupid, but in that ring, I had to be thorough. I had to be thorough. I had to wake up. I had to realize, like, when a guy was beating on me, I ain't never let nobody do this to me. So that's why I fought so hard to win. So in the
Did your mom ever get to see you box?
Yeah, she probably seen a couple of amateur fights, and that was when I was around. That's when I was young. Okay. Like, yeah, I was a teenager though, but she was she never get it. She used to tell people that I was going to be a champion like Sugar Ray Leonard. Even before I knew what that was, I knew Sugar Ray Leonard was a famous boxer, and she was in love with him, right? I mean, she swore she married him and whatever. So it kind of like made me jealous of. And then I started liking another fighter over Ray Leonard, and that was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. But at the end of the day, she used to tell people my son would be just like Ray Leonard. And I was little, and I used to remember I used to suck my thumb. I used to be shaking my head like, yup, Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And you didn't even have a clue that she was manifesting
Right.
something, that you didn't even
Right.
know
Exactly.
what she was talking about.
Yeah,
You was
because
just like, yep, I
the
sure am.
world title that I won, I wasn't even ranked. I was ranked number one in the IBF and the WBA to fight Pernell Whitaker at 147. Then when Pernell lost to Chavez, I was ranked number one to fight Terry Norris. Terry Norris ended up losing. So they called me to fight on the undercard of Mike Tyson and Bruno to fight at 160. And so I ain't never been 160 in my life. And I was barely making 154. So I just had, I just ate and put on 3 pounds and weighed in about 157, knowing that a guy's coming down. When a guy weigh 160, he coming down from like 170, 180,
Coming
whatever.
down.
So I knew I was fighting a bigger guy, you know. So I took the fight, and because I remember this older guy telling me, always be ready for what you've been working so hard for, because you may never get the opportunity again. And you know, where I come from, I felt like if I ain't take this opportunity, it won't be another one, because this don't happen. So I took the fight,
Right.
but it was a lot that I went through before 1996. That was 10 years, 10, 12 years after my mom transitioned. Yeah,
After
yeah.
your mom
And
transition,
so, you
yeah.
know, remember, I never wanted to take money from my family again, so I got in the streets real heavy. Did some things. A lot of people don't regret things. I'm a big regretter. Yeah, I
You
regret a lot of things.
are. Okay.
A lot of things that I got involved in. It was for someone else. Like I was kind of like a little big guy. And if I saw a bully, I wanted to prove that the bully is a coward, you know, to the person that he was bullying
Right.
and stuff like that. No,
So even if they weren't
and never got
bullying
bullied.
you wanted
The older guys in my
never.
neighborhood didn't bully me. I had a guy that lived in Southeast. He did something to me one day, and I busted him in his head for something. And he was grown. So and I wasn't bad. I just wasn't gonna let you do that. Yeah. So
You just right.
you know, that's just how I was. But I love people. I love helping people. All that growing up, and I was just a guy. A person would say I'm a stand-up guy because I stood up for people. You know, and so as time went on, before '96, I got deep into the streets, and to a point where I was facing 3 life sentences, and so it's a lot of trials and tribulations going before that championship. But I understood that there's nothing gonna come free to me, and I had to go through these things because I created them. And a lot of people don't understand. A lot of the trials and tribulations that we go through, we create them, or we allow it to come into our lives from someone else. Someone else's problem becomes our problem, and they don't even worry about it like we worry about it. You know, so a lot of those things were, you know, more than likely belonged to somebody else that I took on. You know, so
So when you were heavy, deep like that in the streets, how did that impact your boxing? Like, were you still boxing? Were you doing both? Like, how does
when
that
I
work?
realized that I couldn't do both was when I turned pro in 1989, and I won 7 fights. And my mama said sometimes being thorough can be stupid. I was told that I had a fight in Philadelphia at the Blue Horizon. And anybody that know boxing back in those days know that the Blue Horizon, they rob you without a gun. You know, so I was big headed when somebody told me, Keith, don't take that fight, man. They're gonna rob the guy was 7-0 with me. And so I went up there, I said, man, I'm gonna knock him out. Every time I had this guy hurt, they rung the bell. Every time. And they took that fight from me. I think that was the worst robbery I've ever seen. Because I stood in the middle of the ring. I say, the round can't be over. They said, you better go back to your corner. And I went back to my corner, And this guy was hurt almost every fight. He just wouldn't go down, but they gave him the fight. And
So that really
yeah,
does happen in real
yeah,
life. They really do that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah, they do.
Or it
That.
has
They do
happened.
that. They definitely do that. And they're doing it now. And it's a lot of times that you
Wow.
can see fights, they did that. But my fight was in particular was that happened. So I took a year off. I took a year off,
Okay.
and I decided to start back training again. And I was jogging. I was still in the streets, and I still was playing both, but I was coming out of the streets. And then it just seems to be this always happen. When you are about to get your life together, that other spirit coming for you. Yeah.
You know that,
He don't want
right?
to lose you.
See?
They don't want to lose you, and people don't understand. They think that's an opportunity, or this is the opportunity to do that. Nah, if you're on a positive path, and you see something that can distract you from that, don't think that's going with the blessing that you got to stay on this path. Leave that alone, right? So we was cleaning up. We was cleaning up everything. We was coming out of the streets, and I was gonna focus on my boxing. That's it. And all of a sudden, I'm riding, and I ride up to my friend, one of my good friends, and he's laying on the ground dead. And I had to get up, jump out of the car. I see it, and I identify him. And then from that point on, I ended up being pulled back in. And so we was in a war. At the same time, I was boxing, and that was kind of, I don't know if a lot of men would have been able to stand up or be stay focused as I was. That was a lot of trauma, because I had to be in the gym, and I had to have people in the gym with me while I was training, and then I had to leave the gym and go fight again in the streets. Yeah.
In the streets.
I was at.
Wow.
I could tell you a time that I was we was battling, gunfight, 3 a.m, and I ended up in Virginia jogging at 5 a.m. with my managers, and they didn't know I was just in a big street war, and I had to do it. They didn't
know your dual
but they
life.
thought all that lifestyle was over. Yeah, yeah, they
Was
didn't know
over.
when they started
Right.
managing me that they started managing me right at the time that happened, and so it was kind of like a blessing and a curse, right? Yeah.
That's what we call a gift
And
and a curse.
it just, to me, it was wonderful, but it was jeopardizing a lot of people. And that's why a lot of times I would get in the car by myself, and they wouldn't know why I wanted to ride by myself. Nah. My trainers, all that stuff, my friends ride in that car, because I was being followed by the alphabet law, and I didn't know if the other guys was following me. Yeah. So
Exactly. That's gotta be hard to, like, I'm just trying to imagine like what that might feel like on a day-to-day basis for you.
I don't think you ever want to feel that, because your head on a swivel. Head on a swivel. You're not afraid, but you're cautious because of the people that's around you. You don't want them to know it, and you don't want them to get hurt in the midst of all these things. So it's a lot of stress, but you gotta let that stress be your strength. So I could fight, and get this, man. But at the same time, we was one. I knew the guys weren't gonna disappear. They weren't gonna just disappear. One wanted to be like, I can call them on the phone and say, man, I'm squashing this, I want to box. It was too much happening. Yeah.
It was too much, right. It was too far
and so gone. They, at the end of that, around 93, all my friends got locked up, except me, because I was boxing. They got locked up. They got a of them got pulled over, whatever. They went in, and I was still on the street, and I had this big fight coming up on ESPN, and before that, when I signed to fight that fight, my grandmother's house got raided, and I was dead. She had went to work, and I was dead. And they just found a weapon. And when they found the weapon, in Maryland, you can have a weapon in your house, and they couldn't take it, but they took it. I said, you can't take that gun. I'm on the couch, handcuffed, and they say we're gonna take it, and if it's clean, we give it back. I said, okay. I didn't know what that gun was been in. I didn't know what that gun been into. They came back 3 days before that fight. Say, you got 3 people on this gun.
Oh no! I was gonna say, like, oh no,
so
you won't even right.
I had to fight that. And listen, in the process of me fighting that, I had to fight this big fight that was on ESPN. So it's all over the broadcast. It's, people talking about it. Keith Holmes may not fight Friday because this happened.
Oh, yeah. Because you had gotten arrested.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was public knowledge.
Yeah. So,
was that humiliating for you, or you weren't, like, that wasn't even that was like the least of your concerns, what people thought?
Yeah, but I'm considerate, so I consider the people caring. Probably not much of the fight, but caring what's going to happen with this situation. So I had to consider people and the care for people. Because when you don't do that, then you lose a lot of people. You lose a lot. You got to care for people. So care for people that care for you. So at that time, I had to do everything in my power to win these fights, not just the fight in the ring, but these fights, the court fight, all of that. Yeah.
Everything.
So
yeah.
So it's really deep. I can't really go into everything that I went through, but if we as a people start to look at what we have on our shoulders right now, ask yourself, is it yours or is it someone else's? A lot of times we worry about things that somebody else ain't even worried about, and we took on somebody else's problem. I know we're going through a lot. It's something I don't want to talk about, specific things in this world that people have done, and I know they probably regret it. And now we all are stressed because they did that. People that didn't do it, we worried about you. And I know you probably know what I'm talking about, but at the end of the day, that's what I worry about. That's what I think about a lot. So but at the end of the day, we got to rely. This can't be a war within a physical war. It has to be a spiritual, mental war. Yeah.
Spiritual.
Right.
We're in spiritual warfare.
So it ain't.
But there are not enough people like you and I who understand that we're in spiritual warfare, because if you don't even understand it, you don't even know what the hell that is, then you don't know how to attack it.
Or recognize it when it's happening. That's why a lot of people some people don't even talk spiritual. You can't even get them to say. That's why I say sometimes being thorough can be stupid. You know what I'm saying? Can make you stupid. We can sit around and people that grew up with me, they know when it comes to power, I know, I'm gonna give all the power to the Creator. I don't have no problem with talking about God. If you don't like it, it's nothing you can do to me that I can't do to you. So I'm not weak when I'm talking about God. I'm actually stronger than you are, because I understand that we can't pick up a gun no more and just go out here and go to war. We can't win. Man, you can't win that way. You can't. It ain't about that no more. It's about now. It's about changing to get the best power and the best winning way we can, and that's through the Creator.
That is through the Creator. So would it be fair to say, Keith, that there came a point in time along your journey where you realized that God was going to have to start guiding your life?
I didn't. I asked him to.
Okay.
When I was facing the three life sentences, I asked him to. I asked him, could I, if I influence people, but I use other words, but if I influence people to do stuff, allow me to influence people to go the opposite direction of what I did. And so, and I was given that. I ended up, by the grace of the Most High, I ended up in Jerusalem, right, for 2 weeks. And my father-in-law at the time, he said, what a project boy like you doing laying on the Dead Sea? Because I was just laying on the water, just relaxing, floating on the Dead Sea, you know. It just holds you up. You don't sink or nothing. You just laying it, right? And I'm just laying there, and when I looked, I'm laying looking at the sky, and I'm like, wow, I'm in the Bible, like in the Bible, in the places where they talked about in the Bible, and I'm laying in here, and I knew I had a journey from that point on. So that's why a lot of stuff I do, I might not agree with my friends, they may not agree with me, but there's a judge. There's a judge that's judging the situations that we and you debating about. And we don't have to debate. I don't debate with people. I just study, I research a lot of things, and I bring it to your attention. Yeah, that's it. If you accept, you accept. You don't, you don't. And then at the end of the day, even if you came back, if you didn't accept it and you came back to me later for help with the situation, I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to try to help you get healed or whatever. Because I know you just, at that time, you're just going to be blind. We all going to be blind at some point until we get the vision, until we get the eyes to see and the ears to hear and the brain to discern. We all have been blind, to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we have, all of us. What would you say, Keith, what do you tell young, let's say, 10-year-old Keith today, if you could?
Well, I probably would go a little back a little further and try to
Back
try to
further.
stay
Okay,
and
what would you go
keep
back
my butt in
further?
school. Yeah,
Okay, so that's what you
I
tell them,
would
stay in
probably
school?
tell me, look, don't. I mean, but I was fighting. Sometimes I was fighting to defend myself. And so, and I would,
Right.
it's like you threw the last punch, so they saw you do it. So I got kicked out of Bernie Elementary that's set in Berry Farm. Then I go down Savoy and because I wore my boxing jacket to school. And I don't know if that's why, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe
and
people felt like,
found
oh, he
out I
think he can
could.
fight.
Even as a kid, right? So at the end of the day, I got kicked out of 2 elementaries, and I ended up in Neville Thomas and over there in Paradise. And I ended up graduating to junior high school, but once I got to junior high school, I ended up in juvenile detention center, so I ain't finished school. I had to really, I took my GED twice. I had to really, by the grace of the Most High, be self-taught. I had to teach myself. I read books, and when I got around Don King, I read. He would say something to me, and I would write it down, and I would study the word that he would say, and like them big words he would use, and then I would bring it back to him later in the conversation. So I was smart enough to do that, to study, to learn how to read, write, math, basic math, all that stuff. Algebra, you got me, but I know how to add, subtract, divide, all that stuff. So, yeah.
That's right. Wow. So you would tell young Keith to stay in
school.
school?
Yeah.
Would you tell him to
Don't
stop
steal.
stealing?
That's one thing I do not do in
Don't
no
steal.
way, shape, form, or fashion. I learned the hard way. Like, stealing is not something that's going to benefit you in the long run. You find yourself stealing something for $30 and you end up losing $300 or $3,000. So, yeah. yes. And then, you know, I tell the old Keith, man, you gotta, everybody has a blessing. You know, whether you want, your blessing is to be a lawyer, a teacher, a doctor, whatever. And if you have any skills, trust that you can be the best at that skill that you have, and let the negative world go. Let it go. Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
Everybody has a gift. Well, you know what? A lot of people, and I struggled with this for many years, not being able to identify what the gift is. Like, how, you know what I mean? Everybody doesn't know how
Right.
to identify
But a lot
what
of
that gift
people
is.
be in their gift when they trying to figure it out. You ever read The Alchemist? Read The Alchemist.
I
You'll
have
realize,
not,
like, a lot of times our treasure is right up under our feet. So
and we
so a
don't even
person telling
know it.
me, advising me, Keith, you need to do this, you need to do that, and he's saying, I don't know what my gift is. I said, you just told me what your gift was. You are influencing me to go after my gift. And maybe you need to you need to learn some things that's positive, and teach people how to incorporate this into your life. Yeah.
See, that's
So basically,
good.
we be sitting right on our treasure. Everybody, you ain't gonna sit here and tell me you don't. A person can sit back and say, "No, I don't know what I want." It's because you never even thought about being independent. Like, a lot of people content with working
Right.
for someone, and that's okay, because that's why we got
Mm-hmm.
employees. But at the same time, you complaining. Stop complaining. Yeah, because complaining
Stop
ain't
complaining.
never lifted nobody up. It's always brought you down. It's complaining it's
Always.
a bad energy. It's bad energy when you complain.
Yep. I've never seen
Right.
anything positive come out
Exactly.
of a complaint,
Exactly.
complaining.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right about that. You're exactly right about that. So for young boys or girls at this point who would love to explore a journey into the world of boxing, do you
Yeah.
have
I
any
mean,
advice?
the biggest thing to do is to get your mind right, learn how to do it, and be good at it. And so when you practice it, the biggest thing is to practice. That's what allowed me to be successful. I took everything I learned from every fighter that I watched. Back in those days, it was VHS, right? So I would go home and pop that VHS in and watch my favorite fighters all the time. And when I got in the ring, I thought I was one of them, depending on who I. So it was all about knowing what you want
Right.
to do, learn how to do it, so it'll allow you to be good at it.
I love that. Someone on here, Keith, says, what you think you are ready for until you learn and tap into your destiny. What you think you are ready for until you learn and tap into your destiny. God won't give you what you are ready for. Okay. Um, that's a young lady, Jasmine. So thank you for that comment, Jasmine. I do get what you're saying. Um, and so, Keith, before we wrap this up, I would like for you to touch on how you are now vegan.
Thank you for bringing that up. So how am I vegan?
Yes. Yeah, like how did you transition to becoming vegan, and tell us a little bit about what that
It's
lifestyle is like for
I tell
you.
you what, I'm gonna say that first. It's a wonderful lifestyle, and I see a lot of people transitioning over to become plant-based eaters, and I congratulate them. Congratulate to all. My journey started probably back in like '92. When I started, '92, '93, I just got started to feel bad about eggs. You know, the bad taste would come up after I eat eggs. I was a sunny side up kind of guy, and so eggs with
Mhm.
cheese, and then cow's milk with cereal and all that stuff. And before the fight, I would always catch cold. And then now at this time, I was I was not. I'm not arrogant. I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just telling you the truth. I was a knockout artist in this time. Like 90 and 93, 94, I knocked out 12 people out of 16. So so
Early
when I
90s.
was eating
Okay.
eggs and stuff like that back in '93 and stuff like that, it was just coming up. It wasn't feeling right. And so I just cut out the
Mm-hmm.
dairy, but I was still eating like hamburgers and all that stuff. And then once my grandmother got sick, and they told me to do certain things with her food, don't cook, don't fry it, just boil it, don't boil it, just bake it. Then they told me when she got real sick, don't eat, give her no more meat, just give her fruits and vegetables. I kind of like cursed the doctor out. And I said, you knew. And so when I was fighting on the undercard of Mike Tyson and Buster Mathis in Philly, I got a phone call saying my grandmother, which was my second mom, passed away, but they holding her on the life support. And they was holding her till I fight because I was the one to make the decision. So from that point on, I didn't eat no more meat. And I was still like cooking it for people, which I felt like was wrong. You can't get me to buy it for you no more. You can't get me to cook it for you. I don't have it in my refrigerator. It ain't even in my house. I don't have no animals. I only have a dog. So, but I don't have no animal products in my house. I don't eat it, and I will not buy
At
it.
all.
Do not call me and say, "Keith, can you stop here? Stop." I stop there. If they got a veggie burger, I'm not bringing nothing that I feel like will make you sick. Nope. My family has said you.
So
I don't know.
you're very
I
disciplined.
don't know. I'm just not doing it because I love you. Because I love you, and I care about you.
So would you date a woman that
has to have an
eats
open
meat?
mind. If you have a closed mind to being stuck that way,
Okay.
no, we won't. We'll be a separate house. I don't want to
No.
be at the end of the table, my woman eating death and I'm eating life. And I really, a relationship to me is an investment. And it's not a financial investment, but a mental, physical, and spiritual investment. So I don't want to be worried about whether you're going to get sick or not. Because you ain't got to worry about me. You know, so I'm gonna be here as long as I can for you.
Right.
You know, so and I have this in about a week or so I'm launching this this course, 4-week course. And it's called and this is basically helping people come away from certain foods that is not food. So the topic is your food is not food. It's not considered food. And I show them what food is. Now, you didn't get a chance to get none of the lasagna. But
not yet. We're going to give you a chance. The show comes back in September. You're going to get on the calendar, and I'm going to be like, Keith Holmes is bringing us the food tonight, y'all.
But so this course is launching in about a week from now, a week or two from now. And it's a great course. It's like 4 weeks and step by step on how to detox, how the food you need to eat, and detoxing and fasting. A lot of people don't know how to do it, don't know what to use. And I'm not claiming to be a doctor, nothing. I'm just saying my experience. Why I'm able to perform at 54.
That's right.
You know, at a high level. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So where can people get more information about this course?
I'm gonna have
on your Instagram
link
or
in my bio, because the one post I talked about, it got almost 60,000 comments and views about what I'm talking about. So now I couldn't answer all of those questions because you got to imagine how many people came in the inbox. So
right. So now you thought, you know what,
this
is how I can answer all of those questions.
To me, it lets me know because thousands and thousands of people shared it and they saved it. So they're interested. So
I was going to say, so now you see that there's a need for that. There's a need for you to do exactly what you're about to do. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that. I would love to be able to share it with our audiences as well. So once you have it all, put it out there. We're going to share it too, so we can get as many people to take your course as possible.
Great. And we'll be, no man can save you, but you can save yourself. And I'm not telling people they can live forever, but you can live longer than we're living, and we can live, live
extend your
free
life. Yeah. Now, Keith, if my 94-year-old daddy was on here, he would say, well, I got to be 94 years old and the same weight that he's been for all his life by eating hog nuts, hog tail, squirrel, opossums. He eat all kinds of foolish meats, Keith. And 94 years old, still driving a Corvette, getting up every day. He would sit here and tell everybody, no,
Well,
don't. You got to eat
what, the
these
food
hog
was a
nuts.
little bit better back then. Hey, and so he started off 94 years. I'm gonna say 84 years ago. I'm gonna give him 2 years. Yeah, 84 years ago, man. The chicken legs wasn't bigger than my leg. Yeah, so there's a lot of steroids, right? And stuff like that. You won't live that long if you started now with the food that we got now. That's for sure. Yeah.
You got that right. You got that right. This food now is so Stan and I are getting closer to, like saying, okay, we're going to start eating more, vegetable stuff and stuff like that too. So it's a slow thing, but we're right. It's about renewing the mind, and you work on what's in here, and then you can start gradually incorporating a better eating lifestyle. I know, right? Well, maybe once I try this lasagna, it'll push me.
I know we got to go, but let me tell you this. Side. My lasagna and the cashew mac is voted #1. The fettuccine Alfredo that I make has been selling off the shelf for this year.
Now, I love fettuccine Alfredo, so now I want lasagna and fettuccine Alfredo.
You put me to work.
Okay. And I'm saying it in front of a whole lot of people. So now I'm putting you out there. I'm calling you out. I want lasagna and fettuccine Alfredo. On the show? Okay.
Okay. All right.
On the show.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. You saying okay?
I'm gonna do it
in front of a lot of people now.
Now you got a responsibility. You got to remind me, because I'm here trying to.
I will.
Right.
I will. That's on me. That part is on me. Keith, I want to say thank you again. This has been a blessing to my platform. Thank you so much for your yes. Thank you so much for being an example of what it's like to go through real life trauma and come out still on top. Come out still, being able to inspire other people. Your life could have ended back then, but it didn't. God had a different purpose for you, as we can see what you have manifested into. So I want to just say, thank you for being that example and being vocal about your struggles and your journey, so that you can help other people along the way understand that, you can turn things around.
You considering me, and I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
Yes, thank you so much. And so for those of you all watching, if you know someone who has gone through real life trauma and you would love for them to share their story on this platform, please ask them to send me a DM, or they can go to my website. My website is www.trauma2Triumph.com. We'd love to get your story told on here. We're going to be doing some filming too. Coming up in the fall, we're going to do some filming as well. So anyone that you can think of that you think is a great fit for this platform, please send them my way. I thank you all so very much for tuning in every Tuesday for another episode of Trauma to Triumph. And thank you. Thanks again to Keith. And we'll see y'all next Tuesday with another powerful story of Trauma to Triumph. That's it. That's a wrap. Good night. Keith, I'll send you this. I'll send you the link to this. So if you want to share it or watch it again, I'll send it to you.
All right, good night.
Thank y'all so much. Good night.